All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to OneSoccer. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming, joined by my colleague, Alex Gangue-Ruzic. And we are going to basically do kind of a what did we learn from the Canadian women's national team window and the two friendlies against Brazil. The first one, which they lost in Montreal 1-0. And then the second one, they picked up a big 2-0 win in front of a fantastic fan base over in Halifax. So, Alex, I hope you're feeling good over there on the West Coast. How are you doing today?
We're doing well. Yeah, certainly a decent little window. I mean, it didn't start the way Canada would have wanted. It was a pretty frustrating match, I'd say, overall on the Saturday in Montreal against Brazil. Sold out crowd at Stade Saputo. But they recovered nicely on Tuesday in Halifax. It was a bit rocky for the first half. A first half Bev Priestman admitted after was not one she was pleased with, but her and her team made some great adjustments, end up getting a 2-0 win, and they continue their really awkward split with Brazil they've had. I think it's 3 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses over their last 8 meetings. Just straight even, can't get any sort of deadlock, break any sort of deadlock between the two, and that continued this camp. Another win and another loss.
Hey, it makes it entertaining for the fans. And if you guys are just joining us here today, be sure to drop a like on the stream. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was through the window itself. Any good moments? I mean, I'm going to try to share a couple of the Sinclair tweets here in a bit, but we're going to start, Alex, all the way back in the match in Montreal with your tweet here. And we're just going to go through kind of your halftime. I know it was busy with the CPL final, so Alex doesn't have a full-time kind of takeaways, but we're just going to go step by step throughout his timeline today and talk with you guys in the chat. So anything you want us to answer, feel free to put it in and let us know how you think our ladies did. So Alex, let's get started here with your thoughts. And you basically said it was a good start, quiet 30, good end. But from here, I want to take a look up at Lawrence because she was a big talking point leading into this window. You know, kind of what flank she's going to play on this new 3-4-2-1 system. What did you make of her performance? And have you decided yet if you prefer her on the right or the left?
Yeah, I mean, to start with Lawrence, I think I prefer her on the right. I mean, we'll get to it later, but I mean, that assist she put on Jordan Hoydema's head, again, a bit of deja vu. I think we saw that exact same. We should do a frame by frame of the goal they scored against Jamaica. I think it's pretty darn similar. Lawrence finds Hoydema at the back post. She just has this delivery with her right foot that when you can get her in space, it's so lethal. The only problem is getting her in that space. Against Jamaica, there was all sorts of space. She took advantage. Against Brazil, but not so much. And I think a big reason for that was Canada's build-up play. So I think Lawrence I enjoyed her at right wing back. I think she gets her best foot forward, but I think as we saw, the challenge is just actually getting her up the field because there's just too many times where she dropped back and had to play a little deeper. And part of that wasn't her fault. Part of that was just Canada was struggling to build up. You naturally kind of sag back a bit deeper on the field, but ultimately you want to push her up the field and get her into those dangerous positions whenever possible.
Yeah, it's where she's at, her most dangerous. It's why when they were playing with the back four, you and I kept saying we want to see this back three just brings a little bit more balance to the side, but it allows one of your star players like Lawrence to be able to get in those positions. And yeah, I agree. I like her more on the right-hand side. I think she could do both, but I think for the time being, I think we want to see her out on the right. But I want to get to the keeper situation because throughout the two matches, we obviously saw two different keepers. I thought Sheridan played fantastic in that first match. I thought she had some huge saves. The goal was so unlucky at the end there. The double deflection, it looked one way, then it went the other, then it was back the other way. It looked absolutely ridiculous. But what did you make of her performance? And then we'll get into D'Angelo, but I thought both looked great. But I really thought Sheridan did fantastic in that match where they lost 1-0.
Yeah, I think it was a good match. You can't discount the performance that Kaylin Sheridan put in because she's a fantastic shot stopper, one of the best in the world. We've seen it for San Diego. We've seen it for Canada. But she had a bit of a World Cup to forget. I think it's easy to forget that there were some moments, I think, of the Olympico against Ireland, against Australia as well. There's a few goals that I think Sheridan would have wanted back on her day. It was a bit uncharacteristic. So I thought it was a good, just bounce back performance against a good team because Brazil had a lot of chances in that game. I, in terms of the final shot count, I think Brazil, they had 15 shots, 8 on target. Sheridan saved 7 of them. The only one, like you mentioned, is a double deflection. That's a good performance any day for a goalkeeper. And she kept Canada in the game. It was just extremely just on her toes and it was lively, and that's what you want from someone like Sheridan. So it was a good start from her. It was good, exactly what you expect, and that's when you have a goalie of her quality, that's you're not going to complain.
I'm just scrolling the timeline here. I agree with that, Alex. But what did you make of the attendance? Actually, I want to get you in on that because we saw a game Montreal, which was very exciting, and then Halifax, and both were posted incredible numbers. What did you just make it of how everyone basically showed up for both matches? I think it was fantastic. Atmospheres looked great both time. It was a shame the ending in Montreal, but I think the fan bases in both cities should be very happy.
Yeah, I think it was great, especially for Montreal. I mean, the fact that it's a record for a friendly, that's huge, because Montreal hasn't got that many games, men's or women's, over the last while. And this kind of shows that Montreal will show up. You just got to give them an opportunity. And I think it's huge for Christine Sinclair because, again, I think it's going to be fitting that so far 4 out of 5 of her farewell tour have been sold out. The 5th game, BC Place, already trending for 30 plus K. They've opened the upper bowl at BC Place. We still have exactly a month and 4 days. So if I were to gamble any sort of money on it, I'd put a pretty good bet that BC Place also sells out. You get the 5 for 5, and it's well deserved for Christine Sinclair, right? Like she's given so much, much to the national team. So many years playing in front of half empty stadiums, having to play outside of Canada for reasons. It's nice that they're able to send her off with these crowds, but it's also huge for this next generation, right? Like to also build the connection. Like I think a lot of the fans in Montreal, they'll remember the Caitlin Sheridan performance. They'll remember a lot of those things. In Halifax, they'll remember the 2-0 win and all the fanfare that comes up with that, and hopefully that endears them as well, not just to this, just because Christine Sinclair is retiring and it's the end of a generation in a sense. It still doesn't. It's soccer. There's a new generation on the way. There's a talented generation. So hopefully these games can also not just serve as a blast from the past, but also a reminder of what's to come in the future.
Absolutely. We're going to dive in the comments here a little bit, and we're going to show the goals leading into the second match because, that was the more exciting one for the Canadians here. But Luke Carrier says, good win yesterday. He also said that the 3-4-2-1 is the way forward. And Alex and I will get into the system in a sec. But once I scroll through the CPL highlights, let's take a look at the 2 goals. The first one here.
Great ball from Ashley Lawrence. A great crowd as well.
Yeah, it looks good. Jordan Heidema.
Side note, we really got to get out to a game out in Halifax next year.
That is 100% the goal.
Just impeccable ball, back post, boom. Yeah, I mean, lots to like with that goal. I mean, I don't know if we want to back it up, I guess, to kind of near the start or something like that. But I just really, for me, it all kind of started with that first Jessie Fleming pass, that one right here where, I don't know, it just feels like for Canada, it showed how much Fleming was missed when she came off early in Montreal and then, wasn't on the field in the first half here in Halifax. Just the weight she put on that ball, it got a little sloppy in the midfield as we see, but the way Fleming grabbed the ball, drew 3 Brazilians to her and opened up that space for Lawrence. You can almost feel Lawrence was just lacking that space. Whenever Fleming was not on the field, a midfielder who can both draw in space, but then, take advantage of that space, not over dribble, not over commit. I think that was great because, you give Lawrence an inch like she saw. I mean, that was a one-touch cross into the back post. Jordan Hoydema hadn't been able to make runs like that just because she'd been spending most of her time on the periphery getting touches. that was a great goal to see, and I think that really showed why where Canada could potentially be at their best in this 3-4-2-1, and Fleming in the midfield I think is a big reason for that.
Absolutely. There's a couple comments already saying amazing second half. Jesse Fleming's possession and playmaking is elite. Team looked completely different once Fleming found space in the midfield. And Alex, one of your takeaways from the first half was, where is it? Oh, maybe it was the other one. You said something about Fleming somewhere. I thought I was gonna throw it in there, but it was just talking how important she is to the 3-4-2-1 system. So we'll take a look first at your first half thoughts here. But just give me another couple words here on Fleming and how important we know that she is to the team. But why do you think in this new shape in the 3-4-2-1, what do you think about that system makes her one of the most important players in it?
It's just because she can do everything. I think that's really, and it's quite stark. I didn't realize it because I mentioned the other game. The first 15 minutes were great. Jessie Fleming was on the field for 16 minutes, and unfortunately she came off with migraines. But then, yeah, it was just stark because for whatever reason, Canada kept getting pinned back. And it feels like they were under, they were down a player in midfield. It felt like they were just getting overwhelmed. And that's where throwing out the idea, okay, maybe they should play a 3-5-2 or something like that just to stem the tide. And then it was really, again, ditto in this first half in Halifax. They're just getting overwhelmed. I think what was clear when Fleming came on, it's like an extra body in midfield because she covers so much ground. I mean, you hear about it, you hear some of the kilometer numbers she puts up, but then you see it in person. You kind of obviously not in person. I would have loved to be in Halifax, but you just see it on when she's gone versus when she's there. You kind of realize, oh yeah, she does cover an incredible amount of ground. She kind of does the work of two players on the ball, and just in terms of, she's in the final third making entries like that. And then she's also dropping deep and helping the build up. And she's doing a lot of defensive work. Canada doesn't really have another midfielder like that because Quinn is a great 6, but they're not going to cover that sort of ground. Julia Grosso, great box-to-box player, but even then, Grosso doesn't have that engine. So I think really the big thing was Fleming's engine, because I think between Fleming and Grosso, those are two similar profiles in terms of the offensive quality, but where Fleming has that edge is just her overall work rate, and you don't really realize it till she's missing, and it kind of shows the only way Canada can play a double pivot is it feels right now is if Fleming's in it, and I think that's a credit to the amount of work she does to make the pivot feel like a trio with all the ground she covers.
Now, looking at the 3-4-2-1, I want to ask you a couple of questions, Alex. One, do you think that this is the way forward? I know Luke Carrier was asking that earlier in the chat, saying that it is the way forward. I want to get your thoughts on if you think it'll be tampered with a little bit. And if so, what do you think that means for Julia Grosso? Because I get what you're saying. I think Quinn and Fleming balance each other more out in that midfield. And I think the two players ahead of them, unless that's where Grosso is going to sneak in, but I kind of like the Lacasse, Leon type players, and then or Hoytema or someone like that. But so, I mean, one, do you think that's the system going forward for Bev? And two, what does that mean for Grosso?
I think it's the system going forward. What I'd like to see is a willingness to adapt based on the situation. Like, say, Fleming, if she isn't available, because at the end of the day, there's always a chance there is. Maybe Canada could switch to a 3-5-2 with Grosso, Quinn, and someone else. Maybe an Emma Reagan after the performance she had in Halifax. Mary Asmi Aladou still, in the fold, and I think an intriguing option that needs to be looked at. But if Fleming is available, I think the 3-4-2-1 could work. What I did find interesting, though, was we were actually quite fortunate on the broadcast yesterday. Jordan Hoytema got injured, she was down because she was getting absolutely tanked all game long by the Brazilian defenders. And it cut to Bev Priestman on the bench. And I don't know if it was intentional. There was a hot mic, and Priestman was explaining the tactics. She was saying how she was telling Leon, and I guess it would have been Hoytema, or not Hoytema, she was down injured, but telling Leon about the box. And I found that interesting. So I was like, oh, wait a minute. Basically, the 3-4-2-1, the two in midfield and then the two up front, Priestman actually wanted them to make a box. I thought that was interesting, because I think it would make a lot of sense. For example, you could have Quinn and another pivot, be it Desiree Scott when she's back. It could be Reagan, like we saw in this game. And then it could be Fleming and Grosso could be the 2 10s in the box as well as an option. So I do wonder if we could see that going forward, just because what I did feel in the first half when they were playing that box, they lacked a bit of vertical threat, just because they didn't have the speed. Leon's not like, she's not going to burn anyone in behind. Hoytema neither. Vienne's, it's the same. She's more of just a straight line number 9. And I thought it was interesting. The 3-4-2-1 also really came alive in the second half when it had Rose and Lacasse, who are 2 speedsters, but also in a game where maybe you're struggling a bit in the build-up. I find that box maybe could be explored with Grosso in it. So as it stands, Grosso might be relegated to a bit more of a super sub role, I think, in that 3-4-2-1 for now. But I'd also like to see her potentially tried in a box in there.
You and I have talked about the box formation quite a bit and how interesting it is in the modern day football. And so I get what you're saying, but I totally agree. I think the speed came into play in the second half here. And it's one of your points when you said that the speed of Rose and Lacasse coming on was a huge asset. And we're going to show the goal in a sec. I just want to go through your other takes here, and then we're going to go into the goalkeeping debate, because I know that you were very impressed with D'Angelo. So let's move on to the Lawrence and Jordan Huitema link up, because I thought Huitema had a fantastic match. Actually, I think she had a really strong window, and I know this comment right here had a great view. Halifax Fun was at the match, said they had a great view behind the goal. Huitema was causing so many problems with her aerial duels. I thought she was a workhorse. She scored a good goal. What was your favorite thing about watching her this window?
Yeah, well, I think the big thing was the goal, because I think it's nice to see that she's done that a second time in 4 games, scored a header at the back post. And I want to see Canada, I want to see her, I want to see Priestman create those sorts of opportunities more often. I think at OL Reign, it's fascinating because she just makes so many of those back post runs. And if you see it, she scores so many headers, gets so many chances. That's what she's at her best. What I do find in the air with Huitema, again, I think when you ask her to make it stick a bit more as a hold-up striker, I just haven't seen it yet. I think in the Montreal game, she struggled. I think she went 0 for 3 on her aerial duels and won 2 for 8 duels, just because in that Montreal game she was asked more to play back to goal, and that's just not her style. But I think in this game, where look at that run she made on we obviously went over the goal earlier, but just look at the run she makes to the back post when she's at full speed running like that and then leaps. Like, she has the size, she's got the the athleticism. She can cause problems at the back post. So I want to see her make more of those number 9 runs, because that's kind of where she's at her best, when she's making those late runs, making those sorts of that movement in the box. And then, you get her isolated at the back post against a wing back, for example, or a smaller outside center back. It's, there's just the height advantage is too much. And now that she's worked on her heading, she can, just the precision she got on that Lawrence ball to redirect it home. I want to see more of that. So I think it'll be interesting to see if there's ways to get her into those positions more often. I thought it was interesting as well that she had some pretty good link up with Eveline Viens in this game. They seem to combine well, find some good pockets. So maybe that's also a partnership worth exploring, to get Huitema more involved, and then for her to make more of those runs, because I think when she does, she's at her absolute best.
I agree. I mean, the aerial presence she brings is such an important piece. But in this 3-4-2-1 system, are you saying her best is probably out? Because she played on the right a little bit, the outside right kind of attacking mid, not like the lone striker. Where would you want to see her in that front 3? And what's your ideal front 3 after seeing this window?
Oof, yeah, the ideal front 3
tough.
is that's tough, because there's just so many different profiles. Because I think Huitema keeps showing flashes where you're like, okay, I think there's a spot. I think I want to see more of Eveline Viens, just because she's just like she's a pure number 9. There's something about it, like the 60 she gave in Halifax. She hardly was able to get a sniff, but she almost forced a great own goal. She just makes good runs as well. I'd like to see Eveline Viens, but then Chloe Lacasse brought some good speed. Deanne Rose, we haven't seen for a while, immediately came in and brought a presence. Yeah, that's tough, because I'd probably say it's between those 4, and that's where I'm kind of torn, because I'm also for example, if you go Viens Huitema, I wonder, I'm like, okay, could maybe a Viens Huitema Grosso kind of thing works, where Grosso plays more of a 10, you get Viens Huitema, and then you kind of allow both of the strikers to play more centrally, right? I wonder if that could work, but then you're like, okay, you're benching Lacasse and Rose, and that's incredibly harsh. So I'd say it's pretty fluid, and I think that's an asset to Bev Priestman that she should use. You can adjust your tactics based on the team. If you're playing a team where they're playing a bit more high line, they're offering you space in behind, go Rose and Lacasse. Because look in that second half, Brazil, it almost like they got too confident in playing a high line because they're seeing how Canada was struggling in the press. And then as soon as Rose and Lacasse came on, it just offered Canada this verticality that they were screaming out for in the first half. And I thought that was huge. But then there's also games where I'm sure teams will sit a bit deeper, and then the Rose and Lacasse might be nullified a bit more. Then you're going to want the likes of a Grosso, Vien, Hoytema, a bit more of control, a bit more size in the box. So I'd say really the boring answer is that there's a bit of fluidity. And I think the hard part really for Bev Priestman is finding out which game to use what, because I think as we saw during this camp, there was times where the right combinations were on the field, like in the second half, and it thrived. And there were times where the wrong combinations were on the field, like the second half in Montreal, and it was also pretty clear.
But for two friendlies, I actually really like what Bev did. We got a lot of different looks at different players, different combos. It's something that for a friendly, I've been screaming for on the men's side, and it's great to see now Bev do it for the women's side. I really liked it, and I thought we got to learn a lot from it instead of just maybe rolling out the same kind of 11 each time and just kind of going into the window what you already knew, and that's kind of what you left. So I really did like that. For FX Flem's comment here, do you agree that Lacasse, Rose, and Heidema were the kind of the standouts in the front three, or did someone else kind of speak in there?
Yeah, I'd say Hoytema definitely in the second game, just with the goal and her overall play. I thought Deanne Rose and Lacasse were solid. I think even Eveline Vien, I think it showed because Priestman as well has been so reluctant to give her opportunities. I thought it was telling she went 60. She rarely gets to go more than 45, be it as a sub or as a starter. So I thought that was a good showing from Vien as well, because I think there's some untapped potential that Canada needs to, because you see it at club. Vien scores everywhere she goes. So it's like, why can't Canada get the most out of that? So yeah, it's hard to say that any of the front four really across the camp, like no one really struggled in the attack. If I'm looking at this window and where maybe the negative parts or things that's like struggled, it was usually more the build-up. It was more getting the ball to the forwards, because across both games, when the forwards got the ball, there were some dangerous chances, some good looks. The bigger issue was the times where they weren't getting the ball, and that's also, that wasn't really their fault. So yeah, it was a good camp for the forwards, and I think I'll continue to say it's more chance generation. It feels like Canada's bigger issue right now, getting them the opportunities, because they're starting to have, between Leon, Vien, Hoytema finding her form, Rose, Lacasse, like you can look around. Like, okay, there's a lot of forwards who are able to put the ball in the net. It's just you got to get them the ball, and the big reality is that with no Janine Becky, there hasn't been someone who's been able to consistently do that. So it's okay. Of course, Becky's almost back, and I think that will be a huge boost that we can't forget about. But it's also okay in that case, get Ashley Lawrence more involved, get Jessie Fleming more involved. Heck, I still think there's something to be done there with Julia Grosso. But even then, there's options.
Now, you gave me the perfect transition here, but first, guys, if you're in the chat, let me know what the biggest takeaway from the 2-0 win was for you, because that's the match we kind of focus on a little bit. We won it, so let me know what the biggest takeaway was, and we'll go through them. But for me, I'm going to take Alex's build-up point, and I'm going to kind of grow on it a little bit with the keeper, because I did not think after this window I'd be coming here, Alex, and we'd be having a keeper kind of debate, because Sheridan is one of the best keepers in the world in my eyes. I think she's absolutely fantastic. But D'Angelo came in here and did something very different. And in modern day football, you kind of need someone who can be able to distribute from the back and create chances. And that's exactly how the second goal went in here. And we also kind of on the point of bringing in speed. So let's first take a look at the goal. It starts right from D'Angelo here. And we're gonna kind of get into the debate of, is she going to maybe knock on the door, because she plays a bit of a different way than Sheridan does. So here is the goal. And
yeah, I guess just to point out a few things, if you can just pause it around here. Just look how high Brazil's line is, and I think they got the three there. That's their back three. They got the four in the midfield, and then the three up front. That's like kind of like I mentioned earlier. They kind of got comfortable because Canada was struggling so much in the build-up that Brazil kind of naturally pushed forward. It just left this incredible speed. The space in behind. So I love that D'Angelo's kick. Look how far it goes. I mean, right at the bottom of the center circle. And look where it catches Brazil. The line is so high that Lacasse wins the flick. Great leap. And, that's all it takes to get in behind. And Canada didn't get enough of that.
And what a little flick on header it was from Lacasse. Great finish as well. It just happens in seconds. Beautiful ball. Look at the little flicked on header. Maybe the defender should have done better there, but clean in. Beautiful little finish. Halifax loves it. That is such a straightforward type of goal, Alex. I loved it. And I thought D'Angelo looked really good in this match as well. I thought, like I said, I thought Sheridan had a fantastic match. I'm not taking anything away from the goal. Was not her fault with that double deflection, like we said. I just didn't think that D'Angelo would have impressed me this much that you and I are having a conversation about, is there a chance for her in the near future? Probably not to take over Sheridan, but she does play a very different type of way. And it's the type that, when you want to build up from the back and you want to maybe create some chances like this, she could be a great look.
100%, because for Sheridan, it just feels a bit awkward at times in the build-up. It's, sometimes there could be a bit of a reluctance to go short, but then when she goes long, there's just too many times where it's going straight to the other team, or maybe kind of out of bounds, or even in the first game, she just wasn't even really clearing half with a lot of her kicks, right? Like, you're not beating that line of Brazil pressure. And what I like there is from that D'Angelo kick, I mean, that cleared pretty much like the first two Brazilian lines, right? Like, Lacasse is winning a header right on top of that last line, the defense, allowing you to flick it on. Like, that's a huge asset in terms of just the boot. But then it was also that the D'Angelo was doing it in so many different ways too, that she was playing short. She was playing, like, she had 2 misplaced passes. But other than that, it was impressive. And I even think the misplaced passes, you can almost wonder, because it kind of felt less D'Angelo just mishitting it, and it was more her not being on the same page with her teammates. I almost wonder if her teammates were like, whoa, like, we're not used to having someone back there who's just so calm and clean with their possession. And I think it was a huge asset, because having a goalkeeper that can build up and break lines like that, it's another player in the build-up. It gives you another body, and that's huge against the press, because as we mentioned, Canada can get pressed a lot right now, and teams are rightfully doing it because Canada's shown that they can struggle at times to play through the pressure. Having an extra body back there, it just allows you to create more triangles, more numerical superiorities. It allows your center backs to push a little more aggressive, because they know that they don't have to drop so deep, because that their goalkeeper can find them. I think D'Angelo added a huge asset. And I think what's also key, she's also a pretty darn good shot stopper. Like, it's the debate, say if D'Angelo's just good with their feet, then you're like, okay, maybe Sheridan has a clear edge. But also D'Angelo's a pretty good shot stopper. I think the stat as well that Adam Jenkins threw out there was like, this was like D'Angelo's 10th start for Canada, and she's kept 9 clean sheets.
That's insane.
Like, I know obviously we can probably check their like level of opposition and whatnot, but still, I think we've seen it as well at club. She's also a good shot stopper. I think it's something where, look, Sheridan, she's the better shot stopper at the end of the day. Goalkeeping is about shot stopping, but also the modern goalkeeper is about more than shot stopping, and what D'Angelo showed with their feet could make for an interesting debate.
I 100% agree, but I mean, I get told that people agree with this point, and I get told that people don't. So D'Angelo obviously doesn't start for Arsenal. Does that concern you in any way? Does that give the advantage long-term to Sheridan? Like, I'm not saying Sheridan's gonna, have to pass on the roles here, because I don't think that even from this match and the 9 clean sheets in 10 matches that D'Angelo has the opportunity to take it. I still think it's Sheridan's, but do you think the fact that she's a starting keeper and D'Angelo isn't, maybe, plays into the fact that it's going to be even more difficult for her to take that number 1 job eventually?
We'll see. I think it's hard to say, because I think D'Angelo's still getting minutes with Arsenal. Obviously, I mean, she got a start earlier this season for Arsenal. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a mixed start, because she made a huge blunder in that start where she just tried to come off her line, completely whiffed. So hopefully that doesn't affect her ability to get minutes. But it depends, because I think if at this point, from what you've seen from D'Angelo, you have to keep giving her a look for Canada. Like, I think in the next window, go do the same thing. Put Sheridan one game, D'Angelo the other, and just, I'd say, really create this competition and see. Because I think there's something also to be said where that's always the argument. Like, D'Angelo also gets to train regularly with a pretty solid Arsenal side. She's also played, like, she's not the starter, say, but she's still playing relatively. Like, she gets games every month, it feels like she's getting. She's probably going to get the League Cup games again like she did last year. Like, I think it's something where she's not completely, like, lost in the shuffle at Arsenal. Like, she's still seeing the field. And if you continue to give her looks for Canada and she shows up and she has no signs of rust and everything, then yeah, I think go for it and really create a competition. Because I think it was fascinating. I asked Beth Priestman, as you can see by this quote, so I was kind of curious about just what she saw from D'Angelo. And she made a good point. Like she mentioned here, she's been an unbelievable number 2, but she also wants her to keep pushing Sheridan like a good number 2, but also like why not push for the number 1 spot with more performances like this? Prove that you can be the number 1, and at the end of the day, Canada will win, because either Sheridan will be like, oh shoot, like I have someone right on my back. This number 1 spot isn't so assured, but then also like D'Angelo as well. If D'Angelo is outplaying Sheridan, then go for it. I think, funnily enough, Canada's always feels like they've always been at their best when they've had multiple keepers pushing each other. Like remember when it was McLeod and LeBlanc and Labe all pushing each other, and then Labe finally got her goal, but then Sheridan was right on her back as well, pushing, and D'Angelo's like it feels like Canada's always at their best when they have that competition in goal. So I think that's good to see.
Well, I think the funny thing is the fact that, kind of going back to the point I made earlier, is if Bev didn't take these friendly opportunities to test out a couple, we wouldn't even have this debate right now. Because like I said, it's not like Sheridan did anything wrong. I thought she had a very good match in the first one. The goal was super unlucky. That's not why you would not start her the next game. Bev just wanted to look, give someone else a chance. And I think D'Angelo absolutely took it. I think she did everything she possibly could to, as you said to Bev, put it in Bev's mind. Be like, you know what? Maybe this is an opportunity for her. 9 clean sheets in 10 matches is a ridiculous number. She plays it different, which gives the team a different kind of outlet. I think it's nothing but good things instead of just going back with Sheridan and taking really nothing from this window. So, Alex, you're saying going into BC, you want to see the same thing again? Sheridan 1 match, D'Angelo the other?
Yeah, may as well. Like I think just keep that competition open, because I think no one, like the fact that D'Angelo's even in the mix. Like again, it's not like Sheridan is like clearly like running away with it. Like again, she's still the better shot stopper, etc. But if there's even like a chance, especially again, D'Angelo can bring something different to the mix, like perhaps fit Canada a bit more tactically, you have to look at it. And it's something where I don't think there's any losing to that discussion. I always think, again, like I know it's tough at the national team level because you play less together, so there's less time to throw new faces in. But especially at the goalkeeper position, if you create competition, it's hard to lose from that, because either the one person like clearly benefits from it and they end up like finding a new level, or at the end of the day, you find out that maybe you have more better options than you previously realized.
I got a question here from Luke Carey saying, who should be the left wing back? So obviously in this 3-4-2-1 system, if we're assuming that Lawrence is playing on the right, I mean, I think, Alex, you and I have some locks or at least some different ideas of players we'd like to see. But I think it's a good question from Luke. From what you saw this window, or maybe if you have another thought of what you'd like to see in BC, who would you like to see, or who shined the most this window in the left wing back role? And then who do you want to see maybe get the start in BC?
Yeah, I think Sydney Collins showed very well again at left wing back. I think she has a very suited profile for it. She's good on both sides of the ball, and she's left-footed, which always helps. But also, I think Jade Riviere in this second game, she was a bit uncomfortable for her in terms of just the press. But I think she showed relatively well, all things considered. But based on what we've seen, I'd like to see more Collins, just to see what she can continue to look like in that around this first team. And then I'd also like to see a bit more of Gabby Carl, because she showed well in that second half against Brazil in Halifax. So maybe continue to see Collins and Carl, and maybe maybe we can see something where Riviere pushes out to that right side. I mean, that's her natural position, and of course you're going to see a lot of Ashley Lawrence there, but also we know what Lawrence can bring in those positions. It's if you maybe you could push Lawrence centrally to experiment if you wanted to go that way. You can also give Lawrence some rest. So maybe we could see something like that.
Yeah, I think Collins is the one that kind of sticks out for me right now. I really, really like her game on that side. I don't want to get too sentimental here, Alex, but we have to go there. We have to go to Christine Sinclair. So I'm just going to bring up the nice clip Armin got. I think it was Armin who was doing this game. There it is. For the last time in Atlantic Canada, the icon takes the field. Let's just have a little listen here.
Not sure if the audio is picking up on my end, but you can fill in the blanks with the ovation. I'm sure we're.
Such a good crowd. Some goosebumps coming in.
Straight to that up front. Armband on.
Oh, the Halifax crowd just killed it.
So great to see.
It is. They deserve this game.
I'll say, and Christine, I know Christine Sinclair is pretty stoic. And maybe it was just the cold because it was, I think, 1 degree. But is that a tear I spotted there from Sinclair?
You think so? Where? We're about here? Or no?
I think that close up they had on her face there. So just getting caught up a bit in the.
Might have been. That crowd was loud. That was really good to see. We said it when we knew that Halifax was going to get these games, but I mean the incredible fan base there with the Wanderers this season was fantastic, and to get rewarded with a match like this, and they rocked it once again. It's fantastic to see, and I can't wait for the national team to go back out to BC and hopefully have some similar vibes when Christine Sinclair takes the pitch for the final time. But Alex, any thoughts on that? Any thoughts of how crazy? I know Armin also put up another post of how crazy that BC is going to be when they host her. Where is that? There it is. Hey, Vancouver. Let's turn this into this. Are you excited? You're going to go to both matches, I assume?
Yeah, of course. I think it's special. Wouldn't want to miss out on that last chance to see Christine Sinclair. And I think just, it'll be special in Victoria, more of that intimate atmosphere. I'll be curious to see what they're able to set up. If they can sneak in some extra bleachers, if we'll see what the crowd looks like at Starlight. But I mean, it's sold out in 7 minutes, so just shows the interest for that. And then BC Place, it's going to be special because I don't know if you've ever even been to a game at BC Place, Josh.
I have not.
That's something you got to change.
Yeah.
First off. But it just makes a huge difference when it's sold out. Like that's the big thing. Sometimes when it's that's the one, I guess, not annoying thing with them with the MLS games, but the unfortunate thing, it's fun with 20,000 when it's pretty loud. Like you'll hear 25,000. It's loud, it's great, but there's no doubt this BC Place shines when it's sold out. And having been able to go to a few sold out games at BC Place in my time, it is special. Like it just, I can't wait for the World Cup here again. It was fun to go to the World Cup the first time in 2015. I'm excited for this Christine Sinclair game because of that, just the noise. And I can only imagine. We'll see what it is. Like, I almost hope Sinclair comes on, right? Like, who knows? Maybe she starts this game and comes off because, sometimes you want that ovation. Either way, I can already imagine just how loud it will be when she either comes on the pitch for the final time or comes off of it. So it is going to be special, and hopefully 55,000 ends up being the goal.
So I have a guess because I sometimes we see with icons like this, they try to do something sentimental to their number. So my guess is maybe she starts and comes off in the 78th minute, 12 minutes left. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Maybe am I overthinking it? I've seen it a couple times with players retiring that, like, if they're even if they're number 20, will come off in the 20th minute and just kind of like a goodbye. But I wouldn't want to see her really start and come off in the 12th minute. But who knows? Maybe I'm overthinking it a little bit.
No, I think you know what? Now that I think about it, I think she starts. I think she starts because I mean the Voyageurs. Shout out to them as always for the hard work they do for supporters culture, but they're planning a tifo. Like they're building a tifo, and I can only imagine I'll be, probably pretty special. There'll be some pregame ceremonies. I think it would be cool if Christine Sinclair walks out to her own tifo on her final game in front of a sold-out crowd, everyone cheering, chanting. They do, a ceremony as they will before the game. We saw the ceremonies they did in Montreal. Like it was cool that she got to swap jerseys with Marie-Philippe Poulin. It was pretty cool. She got to swap jerseys with Marta as well. It's also cool when she's doing that and she's full kit about to play a game versus coming off the bench. So no, I think she starts and then maybe she comes off around 60 or 55, and then she gets the ovation she deserves, and then just gets to soak up the atmosphere from the bench. And hopefully she has a goal. That's another thing. Hopefully she gets a goal somehow, some way, because I think that would be very fitting for her to go out the way that she came in.
I'm still gonna. I mean, I think yours is probably more realistic, but I think it's sentimental. Bring it off in the 78th minute. 12 minutes left until the 90. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe not. But yeah, this was my favorite picture from that night. Just two legends. It's such a cool picture. And I can't wait to see the last matchup for her out in BC. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But we do have another comment here, so we're actually gonna backtrack a touch, Alex, back to the left wing back debate. And you and I said our different looks, but Halifax Flem comes in with a option of Lacasse down the left. Said that she looks promising down there. Do you think that there's maybe a type of shape where you see like this the 3-4-2-1 and maybe just try to get an attacking flair down the left hand side? Maybe you see Lacasse there, and then a front three of like it could be a Haidema, could be a Rose, the end, whoever it may be. But do you think there's an option, or do you think that it throw off the system a little bit?
I'd probably see Lacasse further up the field just because that in-behind threat she brings. Like, there's not many other players with that. Like Deanne Rose, sometimes Nichelle Prince, although she's been playing a lot more back to goal, ball to feet. So, yeah, you want to take advantage of that in-behind threat that Lacasse brings, that she can just run and get past that verticality, as they like to say. So I definitely want to see more Lacasse, but I'd probably see her more that left wing role. Although I'd like to see her also maybe a bit more central at times as well, to offer a bit of something different.
So where do you expect, now that we're talking about starting a lineup, so assuming that Sinclair starts one of the next two matches, where do you think they're going to start her? Kind of like under the striker, as the striker, like in that dual kind of role? Where would you expect her to start if she's going to indeed start one of the final two matches?
Probably up front.
Out front striker?
But maybe even that wider, like Hoytema-like role, like maybe have one of Hoytema or Vien up front and then have Sinclair kind of playing off of her, I'd probably say. Because, Sinclair's been playing more attacking for Canada, although she's been playing more in midfield at Portland. So I'd probably expect one of the just off the striker.
Just off the striker. I'd say the 4-2-3-1 would have made a lot of sense just for her to go in the 10, but with this new kind of system, I was curious to see what you think. But I believe I haven't been playing this with audio. So Alex, can you hear this?
Now we can hear it. Lovely.
It's awesome.
Marta, number 10 Canada kid. Imagine if Marta played for Canada.
Such a cool little tribute, though, before the match like that. I absolutely loved it. And I'm sorry for not playing the other clips with audio. I forgot I muted it on the other side, so I was like listening and like, my bad. But yeah, no, that was a really, really cool moment, and I feel like it's gonna be even sadder in a way, obviously at the BC, but there's gonna be so many more reasons for it. That was a pretty cool moment, but I don't know if the Canadian fans will be ready for Australia in BC in a little bit, because it's just, I don't know, man. It's going to be sad. One of the greatest women's players of all time is hanging up the boots, and it's always tough.
Yeah, it's going to be so surreal, like you mentioned. And especially that it's Australia. Like, there's so much to watch out for. Like, I'm excited personally to go see Sam Kerr play, hopefully, for the first time live, just because she is one of the such a fantastic number 9 to watch. I'm very curious to see her movement live and in person. And there's so many examples of things to watch out for on both sides that I'm very curious for.
Beautiful. Now I'm just going to bring up the post game interview with Jordan Haidema just for a little content here, because I feel bad that I took away the audio from the other one. So here's Amy Walsh with Jordan Haidema.
Jordan, massive 2-0 victory, a great turnaround from the 1-0 defeat in Montreal. What does this mean to the team now to cap off this series on a high note?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. We're coming in with a new strategy, new formation, and Brazil put in a new formation against us, so it was definitely difficult for us to solve that in the first game. A lot of learnings came from it, and a lot of shift came into this coming game, so it's good to get the win. It's good to get the goals and kind of like producing. So yeah, it's a great way to go into the next camp.
And what was said at halftime? Because you guys seem to come out of that locker room with renewed intent, lots of energy, press them, put Brazil in a lot of trouble, and you guys were able to capitalize on that, not only in your field position, but creating chances.
There was definitely like a tactical shift that was made in our pressing and our build out that kind of opened up a few more opportunities for us. And defensively, getting more pressure on them, winning it higher up, we thrive under that. We like to win the ball high. It gives us energy. So those little shifts is what made all the difference for us.
And then finally, what does it mean for you to have somebody like Christine Sinclair? She's been able to get the send off that she deserves, that Canada will be able to give her. But for you as a much younger striker, to be able to learn from her in camp and be able to just take advantage of these next few games.
Yeah, I mean, it's been everything for me to play with Sink. I mean, one of my closest teammates on this team, I love her to death. She's going to be missed so much. So I hope that Vancouver and Victoria's already sold out, but I hope that Vancouver shows up in the way that she deserves. And I hope we sell out BC Place for her because she deserves that and she deserves so much more. So I hope that we can send her off in such an amazing way because she's such an amazing person and player and she's done so much for this country. So I love her to death and I think the team loves her to death. I know the country loves her to death, so I hope we can just show that for her.
That's terrific. And then finally, just one last little question. How much did the costume party serve to loosen up this crew? And did you or did you not win the prize for best costume with Julia?
Oh my goodness. Yes, it's definitely nice to kind of get the relaxation. The team is always a blast, so we took it very seriously, that costume contest. Unfortunately, I did not get the win with the Smurf costume, but a close second place, but I'll take it.
It's terrific. Congrats on the goal. Congrats on the win. Thank you.
Well, that was a really good post-match interview. Alex, what are your biggest takes from that?
I want to know who won. Was it?
I know. I'm so surprised.
How we're not gonna get an answer on who ended up actually winning? But no, I think Hoytema gave some good insight as well, tactically in terms of the adjustments and how Canada was, adjusting on the fly with their formation and tweaking it as well when things weren't necessarily working. I think we saw that really in that second half in Halifax. So. Yeah, it was interesting takeaways from Hoytema to dive into that.
Nova Scotia loves Sink. They just speak so highly of her. It's incredible to see the impact she's had on this country, this sport. And Alex, I mean, I'm really jealous. Honestly, you got to go out there, and I really do hope. I don't know what the number or the count is at BC Place right now, but I hope they are able to sell it out for her. And I think that was very well said there from Hoytema. And I just think it's going to be special. And I hope there's something still to learn from the two windows. I hope Bev continues to do what she does, but I am still desperate for Sinclair to start probably the last match.
No, I think it'll happen at one point. I mean, yes, Sinclair's been kind of thrust into this super sub role, but if it's her last game, it's her home province. If there's one person who deserves to go out like that, I think Christine Sinclair is pretty high up near the list. So let's see it.
I definitely agree, and this is a nice tweet here saying sellouts for the Canadian women's national team: Toronto, Montreal, Halifax, Victoria, and it's all left on Vancouver. Let's go 5 for 5. And yeah, I mean, coming off the World Cup, just seeing the world kind of, really show the way that the women's game is growing is absolutely incredible. And then to see post World Cup, seeing the numbers as well continue and the love and the fans coming out, and this national team starting to get, do you think, a little bit of their groove back? I felt like leading up to the World Cup, there's, some dark clouds around the national team. They weren't playing very well. I think, Alex, if I remember correctly, they lost 5 of 6 leading up to the World Cup. Are you seeing a bit of a turning point just in the vibes of the national team and honestly the way that they're playing?
Yeah, I think they're just finding their mojo, finding their identity. Again, their new identity. I think they were kind of caught at a bit of a crossroads heading into this World Cup where, players in different eras kind of crossing over, stuck between, the defensive team that won the Olympics and being more of a offensive team. And I think it's helped that post-World Cup, they've just been committed. Like, all right, new formation, more of an offensive-minded approach, some new faces. For example, like we've seen, D'Angelo slot in, Jade Rose really get a look, Sydney Collins. We've also been seeing some new faces. Emma Regan gets a start in this game. I feel like it's been a good mix of this new tactical identity, new players, but also, just continuing to grow, continuing to build, and hopefully this sets them up well heading in the Olympics, because as we know, they love the Olympics, and this feels more like the mojo you'd want heading into a tournament if they, of course, can keep this up versus what we saw this year, where it was just a lot of frustration, a lot of losses, not just losses too, but kind of struggling in these losses. And it feels like another big thing too is that we're learning so much in these camps as well. Like we're learning a lot of what works and what doesn't work. Like there's just a lot to be encouraged with. Whereas before the World Cup, it was a lot of losses, not a lot of new faces, not a lot learned. Like we weren't learning a lot. It was kind of stuff we'd already seen, and it's nice just to change all of that.
Yeah, you and I were frustrated, I know, after a few of those windows leading up, saying, what was the point? As it rolled up the same system, didn't make any changes, didn't see any, promising players that were doing good work for their club team, which is why, like I said, I absolutely love what Bev did. And I hope in friendlies to come up, whether it's the men or the women, this is what you should use friendlies for, is to test out the waters with some of these players, because you never know what you're going to see. And D'Angelo is a perfect example of that. It's still very difficult for her to, win the gloves, but the fact that, 9 clean sheets in 10 is incredible, and the way she plays different. And it's these little things that you get to learn. And you were speaking a little bit, Alex, of new players, and Luke asked any new players for next window. So I'm assuming that means, is there any players that didn't get called up to this window that you'd like to maybe see for the next one?
Oof, that's a great question, because there's a few intriguing options I'll throw out there in no particular order. I think one, up front, I think it's been good to see that she's trending well in a recovery for injury, but it's Clarissa Laracy at Hacken. She had a great start at Hacken, but picked up an injury, and it's, right before Champions League, I think it was, but sounds like she's back in training. I think up front, she could offer a bit of an interesting profile and throw something interesting in the mix there. So I'll throw Laracy into there. Another name that I've really found interesting as of late, another forward, it's Jessica DeFilippo. She hasn't been called up yet to Canada, I don't think, but she's playing in the Spanish top flight for, I want to say, Huelva, I think it is. I'll just confirm. But she's had some interesting stats, because I think last year she was in the Bundesliga. She's 22, by the way, so still super young. She was in the Bundesliga last year with Potsdam, scored 2 goals in 11 games in the Bundesliga. Her team got relegated. She went to Spain. She has, I think it's 1 goal so far in 6 games. The goal was against, it was either Barcelona or Real Madrid. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but she's been going up against some top teams, on a Huelva side, and it's been showing well. So I think it could be interesting to see if someone of her profile could be looked at long term if she continues to progress. Because at 22, a forward, we talk all the time about forwards for Canada. After Vian Hoytema, there's no really other number 9 options. I'd like to see Filippo get a look. Otherwise, I want to see more Simia Wujo after this camp. She missed out just due to school commitments, but I really think there's something in the midfield. I think she would do really well in this double pivot. I'd love to see a Fleming Awujo pair, what that could look like. So give me some more Simia Wujo. And another one, because why not? She's still only 24, which blows my mind. For some reason, I feel like she's more 27, 28. But Sarah Stratigakis in Sweden, she's had a pretty good season. She had a 3-assist game, if not long ago, we talked about on Canadians Abroad, and she's had some other good performances. She's a chance creator, and for a Canadian team that needs more chances, we mentioned it's not so much the finishers that are the issue, which might go against DeFilippo's chances of making the national team, but they need more creators, and I think that could really give someone like a Stratigakis a good edge.
I knew you were going to say Simi, but you threw some big names in there and some very intriguing profiles, like you mentioned, and you even impressed our friend HFX Flem, saying, Alex, your player pool knowledge for the men's and women's is ridiculous. You could scout, man. But no, those were some pretty interesting looks, and I'm curious to see if Bev. Do you think it's very likely that we see like maybe one or two players? You think that there's probably not going to be like any big surprises for the next window? Because you and I love asking for those new chances on the men and the women. Anyone who's in form right now, playing well, why not give them a chance? Sometimes I feel like there's a little hesitation to call up some of those players. So do you actually think there's a decent likelihood that we'll see one of those surprise packages, or probably not?
Thing is, I wouldn't like. I wouldn't be surprised anymore because I think the Emma Reagan one. I thought that was a very good shout. Like, and just in terms of like, I didn't expect it. That's why I would have never seen Emma Reagan on the radar. But I think the fact that Reagan gets called in, she's 23. Of course, it helped that she's already had a call before. But this was someone who's playing League One BC last year. Like, I was watching her play in League One BC for not somewhat varsity at the time. And the fact that she goes pro and immediately, she now gets a look. I mean, it helps that Canada needs options in midfield. But I think with Reagan's call, that opens up the door for a lot of players who are maybe playing in leagues like that to get a look. So I'd love to see someone like a DeFilippo or a Strategakis, seeing that Reagan was able to get call in, because I think a lot of those players in those mid-20s, they all fall in that range. I think that's good to push. And I think we've seen like someone like Mary Esminaladu get a call over the last few years, and she ends up being a pleasant surprise. Like, there's a lot of names like that we're not even touching the surface. Like, for example, in France, I keep hearing about all sorts of fascinating players. Like, I'd have to go through the list. Like, there's this one, I think literally about a month ago. She used to play U Sports. Now she's playing in D1 Arkema, and she scored like a handful of goals to start the year. Okay, why not get a look, right? So there's a lot of options, and hopefully we at least continue to see one or two new faces each camp. And hey, as Reagan showed with her appearance, these new players can also put in a shift,
especially in friendlies. And I think that's where you and I are definitely on the same page, Alex. I mean, I'm always for giving, young players, new players an opportunity, especially when they're performing, like I said. But in friendlies, it just makes a lot more sense. Like you and I, this is the first time I think on the men's and women's side, we've talked about a lot of things that we've learned and a lot of things that we've seen this window, because there was so much change up with the roster, and I just absolutely loved it. So I am 100% on board with you. I hope we see a couple new faces or some intriguing young players for the next window. We'll have to wait and see. But to close out the stream, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to play one final clip here from Bev post-match.
Canada 2, Brazil 0. What a result. Just tell me about it.
Yeah, I think it was an awful first half, to be honest, but I think we changed some things tactically at half-time, and you could see straight away the impact. And then Jessie Fleming comes on, and I thought the game started to really open up from there. So to get a clean sheet, we've got to cherish that, and then to get 2 open play goals, and the atmosphere was incredible here. So listen, it was really nice to end the window on a win. We've learned a lot this window, and I think that's what we targeted for. But I think to come away with 2 goals against Brazil and a clean sheet, I'm happy.
Great reception here in Halifax. Just tell me how much of a 12th man this crowd was, or a 12th person.
Oh, listen, especially at the end, I think the crowd was incredible. I've never actually witnessed, when we did the lap. It was incredible. And I think I told the players today, people have waited their whole life to see their heroes play in this town. Let's go out and give them a show. And in the end, we did. But yeah, I think for us to go across the country and connect with our fans, incredible, and Halifax has been an unbelievable host.
We're headed back to BC for 2 matches to send off a legend. Just how important has Christine Sinclair been to this program?
I mean, I hate to be that person that says there's no words to describe it, but I think, listen, the game has been changed forever by that individual. I think I can feel the respect this group, especially now. I think they know it's coming to an end. Just the way she's come in and held herself with absolute class, doing laps of the stadium, signing every autograph. I think she's taken this in, and so she should. But at the end of the day, every session, this camp, she's put an absolute shift in, and that speaks to volumes of someone who's about to depart the program.
Bev, Canada 2, Brazil 0.
So that was another very good post-match interview, touching on Fleming, touching on the crowd. I mean, we can hear the atmosphere in Halifax, and I can't stop praising them because they just absolutely crushed it. And then the touch, of course, on the legend, and the emotional probably goodbye that we're gonna get in BC. It's a great post-match interview from both Jordan and Bev. Any final thoughts, Alex, on that interview or anything before we go here?
Yeah, it was solid interview. I mean, Bev Priestman as well had some interesting comments as well in her post game press conference. It was interesting to hear just how refreshing she was in terms of just the first half. Like she could have easily been like, things didn't go our way the first half, etc. And she was like, nope, like struggled, did not like it. We switched things up tactically, and I like that. It was a good, just admission on her part to see that honesty. Otherwise, I found the name of that player in D1 Arkema.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
She's 22 years old. Her name is Latifa Abdou. She has a goal, 2 assists, 4 games for Dijon this year in the French top flight. And there's a bunch, there's 10 Canadians in D1 Arkema. I think the only one who regularly gets a call is Vanessa Gilles. But there's between the likes of Levasseur, who we've seen before, etc. There's a bunch of Canadians in D1 Arkema. So who knows? Maybe Canada might want to have a look at some of those players. There's a lot of intriguing prospects between the ages of 19 and 25 in there.
Yeah, well, it's a fantastic league as well. We've seen a lot of success of Canadians playing there. Lawrence, obviously, Buchanan, we have Gilles. So, I mean, it's not a bad league to take a look at for sure. So hopefully maybe we get a look at one of those players or someone else in the next window. But that is all for Alex and I today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It was a very interesting window with a 1-0 loss followed by a 2-0 win and some great scenes as we lead up to Christine Sinclair's goodbye in BC. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers, friends.